I am Jay Simpson's area ed alternate director. As some of you might know, Jay is positive for COVID, so he's not going to be here today.
Oh, he touched everybody.
So this is kind of my role as the alternate director, is to step in when he's not available to go to certain meetings and certain functions and stuff, whether it be at the CSRD office or here for a town hall meeting. Today we're going to be talking about the bridge. Okay, obviously we have some special guests with us here today. We are not going to be talking about snow removal or line 17 or anything like that. We're specifically talking about the bridge today. Okay? I just want to make that clear right from the beginning. I'm going to let our guests introduce themselves. And I want to remind everybody that we've been through some tough times lately. Let's be patient and understanding and calm and not let our emotions get ahead of us right now.
That's going to be difficult.
It's going to be difficult.
Very.
That's why I wanted to make a point of saying that, so that we remember that and acknowledge that. Okay, so from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, we have.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Eric Locksmith. I'm the district manager for Ministry of Transportation, Okanagan Shuswap District. This is kind of the top end of the Okanagan Shuswap District. Up here we go kind of west to the Highway 97 turnoff and east to Malaqua. Perry River Bridge is the boundary. And then my district actually goes all the way south, including like Penticton, Kelowna, down to Osoyoos, the US border, Manning Park. So pretty big area. We've got about 10,000 lane kilometers of roads in that area and 400 or so structures. Lots of work going on, obviously, with the emergencies and everything else that have been top of mind lately this year. But you know, we're definitely aware of the huge impacts here, but just wanted to give you a sense of who I am. I actually live in Armstrong, so not too far away for me to come over and visit. And I'll kick it over to Kevin.
Yeah, I'm Kevin McDowell at Ames Road. I'm the contract manager. The area he just described, I looked after the same. It's two different areas, Area 8 and Area 13, which is when he's enough on this end. Yeah, I'm from Peachland. I live down on the other end, but spend a lot of time up on this end.
I'm Chad Marsh. I'm the bridge area manager for the Ministry of Transportation. So my role in the area is to do the bridge inspections and then work with the maintenance contractor to plan and do the maintenance on the bridges.
So my name is Brent Wright. I'm the bridge manager. So I work with both service areas, 8 and 13. I live down in OK Falls. I've spent lots of time in this country. So yeah, we take care of all the additional works and all the maintenance projects for rehab, and yeah.
So just to be clear, 1 and 3, you guys are from the Ministry of Transportation.
2 and 4 were for me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure and AIM. Here to represent today. So thank you guys for coming. And I'm going to give you guys the floor, and I'm just going to kind of slide back a little bit so that I can watch them.
I'll stand up hopefully so people can hear me. Just provide a bit of introductory information, lay a bit of the groundwork, and then we're going to open up for questions later, because a big component of what we want to do today is get feedback, hear from everybody what concerns are, priorities are, and make sure that we're doing everything to kind of align the work that we do with what your priorities are as well. So with that, I'm going to jump right into it, give you the high-level overview. Chad and Brent are our bridge experts, so when it gets to some of the more technical stuff, I'll definitely call on them to help out and fill in those gaps. But I guess from a high-level perspective, with the bridge there, I think hopefully everybody was able to see a bit of the closure plan. We've got about 3 weeks of work. Our anticipated closure plan that we have there has it closing from 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. Now this is kind of our worst case scenario that we have to open with. We are hoping that we're going to be able to get some openings. Right now, our worst case scenario is that it will be open still to pedestrian traffic to be able to walk across the bridge even during that overnight closure period. But we are looking for opportunities to narrow up that window that we're closed overnight. That's one of the items. And the other item is to look to see if we can actually open at a midpoint during the evening to have vehicles safely cross the bridge as well. Right now, because there's just uncertainty in the process and what we have to do until we get a few days into the work, we don't know for sure that we'll be able to do that. And more importantly, we don't know when. So we don't want to advertise, hey, there's going to be a midnight or a 1 a.m. opening to get across the bridge, and then find out that we actually, that point in the process maybe occurs 2 hours before that, and we can't get to the next stage of the work that we need to do until we rip out the component that needs to be replaced, and that would cause problems for being able to cross with the vehicle traffic. So that's why we need a few days to kind of settle in with the actual work itself to find out if there are those opportunities to open, because we do want to look for them, but we just wanted to kind of blast out the information to prepare for the worst, and then have this conversation to kind of share with what our kind of plans are for that work. We will be able to accommodate just people crossing in emergencies, of course, too, but not vehicles when we have those components ripped out necessarily. We're still trying to verify if there's a possibility to get even a single emergency vehicle across. Just to give a bit of an idea, you're probably familiar with the bridge, driving over it very regularly. The condition that it's in with those braces needing to be replaced, those are structural components that need to be replaced, pulled out, and then new ones put in. So there's going to be probably several hours that they set up and get prepared to pull out the old component safely. That's when we might be able to hit that pause button before we actually pull it out to let vehicles across at that midpoint. Once again, we have to verify when that is and then be able to communicate that out. And then once that's out, we won't be able to get vehicles across safely because that's an important structural component. There is a chance that, a one-off, we might, like life and death situation, try to risk it for emergency vehicles. But it would be a big risk to the safety of the bridge, so we're still trying to verify if that's even a possibility. But that gives a bit of a sense just around the window of what we're trying to do, the timing, and a little bit of information about the work. So maybe I'll kick it over to either Chad or Brent if you want to describe in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I can speak on details of the actual procedure if you want.
Yeah.
So what we have like an engineered design, like a jacking strut for removing the braces. So there's main components and then there's counter braces. So we're changing both the main braces and we're also changing counter braces. And all like the timber that's up top, like all the lateral cross bracing is also being changed. So it's like an engineered jacking strut that we use, and it's like a brand new component that's just been manufactured specifically for this bridge. So there's like the engineers have put certain hydraulic pressures that we're allowed to have, and we have to stay within like ranges when we do this. So that's the problem with trying to even have emergency vehicles go across. Then like if there was a situation like that and we let a vehicle go across, then there's the possibility of like compromising the jacking strut, and then it would postpone work, right? So that's why right now we're gonna not let any vehicles across. So the first 3 days, like I was talking about, it's more of like a trial, right? We got to make sure that the jacking strut and the process of changing all the components goes smoothly. As long as everything goes smooth, we should be able to have like open later, or like close the bridge later and then open it earlier. Like ideally close it at 9 o'clock, open it at 4 o'clock. Like I'm not saying exact times, but hopefully we can narrow it up. And like he was saying, maybe midnight or 1 o'clock, have a short window, half an hour to let cars through. So
yeah, that's good. I'll give a little bit of more info because we did get some emails leading up to the meeting. So just to kind of hit on some of the common themes that we were hearing people talk about as well. So people were wondering, well, when is the bridge going to be replaced? And, like, are we going to get a 2-lane bridge? What's the schedule and plan for that? So right now it isn't scheduled for replacement, but I did have a chat with our folks there in engineering and confirm that we're going to get some funding. We're going to do a bit of an option study on the bridge itself so that we can help to answer those questions that came up. So we'll get a better sense of what the bridge is going to be replaced with, the type of structure, and then that will hopefully lead it into the future of when it'll get replaced, but we won't have that information right away. I see a hand, so I'll go ahead.
When was all this planned? When was the actual plan implemented and started?
So we started planning for this project a long time ago. It obviously takes a long time to have like the jacking strut engineered and manufactured. Ordering the new components to replace at the bridge. Like this has been in process since almost
Close to 2 years.
Almost 2 years. So originally we were scheduling to hopefully start this a lot earlier, beginning of end of the summer pretty much. But with all the wildfire and everything that's been happening, we've been trying to postpone this as long as possible because obviously we understand the situation out here. It's devastating, everything that's happening, right? So. Postponing further into the winter. The problem if we go into the winter months, then with like ice and everything freezing, like you can't do this work in the winter months. Like it's just not a feasible thing to do.
The bridge gets basically frozen together, and we're applying a lot of pressure to jack this bridge apart and remove those components. So when everything freezes and then you put those jacking pressures in there, it's not good for the bridge.
No.
So.
Can I understand then, 2 years ago, you started, the wildfire happened, and basically you're saying, don't worry, we're going to do everything right, which we were assured by the wildfire authorities and by CSRD was going to happen. We've been let down. There's people here in this community who are very, very worried. They have a mental condition at the moment because they're so damn worried they're going to have a nervous breakdown. And yet you're going ahead with this. Wait until next year. If it's taken 2 years to plan, it can be 3 years.
So I'd just like to address that concern. That was like right at the top of my list when the fire happened and we were looking at this project. And for myself, I took a look at the project and I went, it's work that needs to be done. Sorry, fly. So we have the material, we have a contractor, we have everything staged and ready to go. Right now, the rebuilding isn't happening. If we wait, we're doing this work right in the middle of when everything really gets going into the rebuilding stage. So the hope with this project is that we can get it done before things out here are really going into the rebuilding stage and people are trying to get concrete across the bridge. Or the worst scenario that could potentially happen is we'd have to weight restrict the bridge, and at that point we don't have a contractor lined up, we don't have the materials anymore. Wood doesn't keep, like that size of wood and stuff, it ends up twisting and you end up not being able to fit it and get it to work in the situation. So we'd be out that wood at the time when we have a major rebuilding going on. So unfortunately we're looking at the rebuilding hasn't really taken off full swing here yet. We've got a plan and we've got the contractors and we've got the materials and we've got the people ready to go and get it done before that takes off.
I see the primary word you use, hope.
I'm sorry?
You hope. Now, what about planning, real planning, and going 3 weeks ahead of time and saying, Canadian Army Corps of Engineers, put in a Bailey now.
Why don't
So
we have
you
a
had a-
temporary bridge? Why?
So a temporary
Been
bridge,
planning for 3 years, and you don't have a temporary bridge. Why?
Guys,
So
I'm
one
gonna-
lane bridge.
I'm just gonna really quickly shout it out there to remember that we are here for information. These are our guests. Okay?
We're here for
I know,
information.
I know that it's tough, but we need to keep
Do
calm.
you know who pays their salaries?
Yeah,
We
so,
do.
sir, when we hand out and ask the audience for a question, we're playing Jeopardy here, guys. It needs to come back to us as a question, right? And if you're just making a statement that you want your opinions heard, that's cool. But
That was a question.
We need a
Why
question.
has there not been an alternative bridge?
bridge, yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. So, it's just the cost involved and the time involved in order to get a temporary bridge in place. Obviously, we've done it quickly in emergency situations, and we've all seen that where Holding Bridge, we did a lot of that work in a pretty tight timeline to get
An
that.
extremely tight timeline. The quick response at Holding was, that was impressive.
And it's the same contractor that we've got from that holding project that's
CEC.
lined up and ready to go for this one. But as far as a temporary bridge, because we're not in an emergency, we have a lot of permits, consultation, and engineering that's required in order to get that done. And it would cost millions more to get a temporary bridge in place in order to stop the impact for that.
So,
And it
no
just-
disrespect, you're basically saying we're worth 100,000 each.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I totally understand that this needs done. I understand what you're saying. I get the timing, like, it makes sense when you said there's a lot of rebuilding that needs to take place and we want to make sure the bridge is safe and can withstand all of that that's going to be coming through. God willing, in the next couple of years to help everyone that's lost. So I totally get that. I get the position that you're in. I totally respect that. The problem I'm having with this is that you're closing, your hours are like, those are working hours. Like, we're rural here.
Yeah.
I can't even get my daughter home from volleyball. She's in volleyball 3 days a week and stand on arm. So I'll be blocked out of the community 3 nights a week, or I have to pull my daughter up for sport.
Yeah,
Like,
I completely
where am I
understand.
supposed to go? My husband can't get to work. So he already didn't work because he was here fighting the fires and didn't have a paycheck that whole time because they wouldn't hire him even though he's a certified logger and has worked on fires before, but got the big X on that. So now he can't, or we have to pay for him to stay out. I don't really know what to do with that. Like, I've got to pay for housing for him out because of your hours are insane, 7 to 6, like that's like.
No, I completely understand you. Like, obviously, we're doing night shift to try to accommodate. We're not doing it at daytime. I would love to do like a short shift, but the reality is like I don't want to say we can do it in 5 hours and then have a 12-hour closure. If it's honestly, this is a brand new jacking strut. We've never used it before. Like,
So when
after
you
the
say-
first couple days,
Okay, so that's
once
what
we
I'm
have it like
trying to
dialed in,
understand.
we'll
Okay,
tighten it right
because
down,
when it was posted
guaranteed.
online, it sounded like it was gonna be closed that long for like 3 weeks, and I was like, what?
It won't be.
4 weeks.
I guarantee it won't be. We will, after the first couple days, we'll shorten it up. As long as everything goes smooth, we will shorten it up.
Yeah.
So
So
it's just getting that first partial.
Once the process is dialed in, we'll like hopefully like close it at 9 and have it reopen for 5 a.m.
That would be awesome.
11 would be better.
yeah, I think if we
I'm
can
open to
shift-
suggestions too. Like if
Yeah.
there's
Those- a lot
if
of
the
people
entire
work
like
outside of the community, they
Yeah.
aren't even home until.
and it sounds like if we
People
can.
work 2 hours away and drive.
If we can
Yeah,
take
no,
that
fair,
evening
fair.
one later, and that's the key one for a lot of people. From
Yeah,
what
and a
we've
lot of
heard in the
people get up
feedback.
at 4 in the morning, the truck drivers, the loggers,
Yeah.
they get up at 4 in the morning.
right? Yeah.
Well, some choose to, yes, I know,
Yeah,
but like.
and there will be, like we did say, like there is going to be pedestrian access across there, and you'll have the ability to park on the other side of the bridge if you need to get across there. I understand that that's not always viable for everybody, which is why we want to create that in the middle of the night opening as well as shorten up those timing windows, but we do also want to let people know that you can cross from a pedestrian perspective to another vehicle on the other side if that's something that's feasible for some people.
You've got a few questions.
This gentleman said he's got a lot of responses to questions he had online that were really common, so let's let him finish doing that, because he might have already planned to answer some of these questions. Did you still have some things to add there, sir?
Going to be the ATV on site to ensure to get people across so that we're certain that if there is, something life and death, that we're minimizing any potential delay in getting people across immediately for that. I wish I could give you an exact, map of what that's going to look like, but that's what that first few days is going to be to really narrow down what that window is. And yeah, we did hear that, primarily we've got people in the evening, that 7 o'clock is really early in the evening to put that shutdown. So we know that that's the first number that we want to move is that 7 o'clock to push that back later. And then we just need to find out like how long it takes for them to do one whole component removal and replacement, because that's the key, is getting that new component back in there. So ideally it's a 5-hour job and we can put that window right where it needs to be. And in a perfect world, we get so good at it that we can anticipate that at hour 3 is when the opening would be if you need to cross at 1 a.m. or whenever that is in a pinch to get across. But it's just because we don't have that certainty and information until we've got a few days in under our belt of working on it, that I can't say exactly what it'll be. But I do like part of this process, and also what we've heard before, is getting that feedback so that we know once we have that information and those parameters, we can tailor it as best we can to the needs of the community. So, sorry, I'll start with you.
I'm just curious, you've said that foot traffic can go across.
Yeah.
So, do you have some sort of plan as to parking?
Yeah, so we were looking at areas for parking today. Typically in the past, what we've had is just had people parking on the side of the road. There's a couple pull-out areas, as I'm sure you've all seen, that are there. We're not anticipating there's going to be hundreds of vehicles there, but there are some larger parking areas that are a little bit further away that we can look at as well if we think that there's that desire from the community to have it.
We have had closures in the past. Most recent one was about 5 years ago when we did the deck on the bridge, and we had people parking on the other side. It wasn't tons of people. It was 5 to 10 vehicles.
Okay, so
Can I ask?
No.
What-
I think she's still talking.
So, one, when you've done the deck in the past, it does seem to me that there's been some open times.
So
Because you're dealing with a different type of structure, this
Yeah.
time you can't do that, I understand that.
Yeah.
But this is a new concept, really, and as to how many vehicles would be there, that this could be different this time. Perhaps, and you're saying it might be a short time as opposed to the long time that was announced, which is good. And so perhaps some people might feel that in trying to acknowledge how important this is and what's being done, that they say, okay, I know I have to be at work at 4 in the morning, so I'm gonna make sure that I'm out there, I'm gonna park my vehicle, I'm gonna get someone to take me so that I can walk across, because our home happens to be one of the closest ones to the bridge, and I still don't want to be walking that distance. So if you did that sort of thing, was to say how many vehicles you are going to have there. So if there is some sort of accommodation made for stops, that's good to know.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll have a look at the plan, and we'll have like the small scale one. If it's just the 5 to 10 vehicles, it'll just be here. But then we'll also have a plan for in place. Okay, if we start to see more vehicles, we'll map that out, and we'll make sure that we share that information immediately online. Like if there's more vehicles, here's where you can go to park the vehicles and do that. That's a great suggestion. Thank you. I do have a couple more hands I want to get to right here.
Would like 11 o'clock at night till 4:35 start time, would that be, and then just extend it maybe by another couple of weeks? Because like Jan said, like a lot of us work out of town. I work in Kamloops, it's all evening stuff, so I'm not out of town till 9.
Yeah, it's about a 6-hour closure, so that is potentially within the realm of possibility. But
Something realistic, or?
Hopefully, we're putting a ton of manpower at it, and like they're all like really good journeymen, bridgemen. So hopefully, once we get in there and get like 1 or 2 of these changed out, and they use this jacking strut, hopefully it's a quick process.
Okay.
we can't stop at 6 hours.
Yeah.
It's the component. We have, once we remove it,
It has to
the
get
new
changed
one
out.
has to go back
Yeah.
in, or we can't
Yeah.
open.
And like, I mean, you guys have all seen the bridge. It's an old bridge.
Yeah.
There's a ton of variables there, so it's very hard to predict. Just he's been trying to ask a question here for a while.
I've got go ahead and then you.
My question being, I'm a logger, just like a lot of other people out here. I leave for work at 1 in the morning. I got a logging truck.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not gonna park it at the bottom of the 670. Are you gonna have security? Because, I mean, I got 600 liters of fuel on.
Yeah.
That's $1,200.
Yeah. Understand it.
We all know that it's an issue out here. So,
Is there a preference for a parking area?
Yeah, because we're gonna have, obviously we're gonna have flaggers, we're gonna have ETVs. I'm more than happy to bring in extra flaggers to make sure that there isn't issues like that. So 100% wherever we figure out the parking accommodations will be, it will definitely try and accommodate and make sure that there's people.
No, that's what I'm asking.
Right,
Is
yeah.
there a preference for parking that you,
Not-
being from the area, you know?
really, I mean, your closest scenario there is either the bottom of the 670, and your next biggest parking lot is probably going to be the store.
Right.
But like for me, I mean, it's, if you had an opening, I I know that it's all new and
Yeah.
the component has to be changed. But if you had the opening at midnight, I'm more than happy to get up 2 hours early, take
Right.
off, and I'll go sit in the bush. I don't really care.
Yeah.
But it's impossible for me to be able to go to work with the closures that you guys are.
For sure, I get 100%. We will have an opening in the middle of the shift, just not the first couple days. The first couple days are going to be a full closure. After that, 100% we'll have an opening.
Are you Monday to Friday, or you 7 days a week?
We're going to try and do 7 days a week and get it done as fast as possible. And we're advertising for longer than, like, we're planning for the worst, open for the best, right? So, like I said, we're throwing a ton of manpower at it. We're going to try and get it done as fast as possible.
You've been waiting a long time, sorry.
This might be a stupid question. You said the component is wood?
Yeah, the whole bridge is all timber,
I
right?
know that,
Yeah.
but I mean, you've been fixing it, it needs to be fixed. Why can't it be steel? Why can't it be something permanent?
Oh, those
You
are
said-
great questions.
Can I come give you a hug? Oh, jeez. That would make my life wonderful. Unfortunately, the way the engineering codes in the country work, we can't replace items in one bridge with dissimilar items. We can replace like for like. So that's 1950s engineering. We can replace as maintenance. We can replace 1950s engineering with 1950s engineering. If we upgrade it, then the whole thing gets re-engineered.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a full-blown
Right
engineering.
back from the beginning.
That'll
So-
be when we look at that replacement and those options for replacement, that's where the components will be
Exactly.
changed from the current configuration to a whole new bridge.
So that'll be addressed during the option study.
Yeah,
And-
so we'll have more information about that because we're gonna share that option study through Jay and the rest of the elected officials.
What about fire engines? We have a fire department called Lee and Scotch Creek.
Yeah, so we've been in contact with the fire department, obviously, and I forget his name. Are you is he here?
Brian?
Ben?
Ben.
Yes.
Yeah, so he was gonna post a fire truck on the far side of the bridge, just in case. And obviously, there's, I believe, quite a few members of the fire department live on the far side of the bridge too,
Yeah.
from what I understand. So yeah,
They
we've
need
been
to come
in.
here as well.
Pardon me?
They need to come here as well.
Yeah, no, for sure, and that's why I've been in conversation with them. They have a plan in place, and there's a emergency ETV. Yeah, we're gonna have an ETV posted, but he was saying that they have like an emergency response team. So obviously we'll accommodate. They're gonna post vehicles on this side, so if the guys from the far side need to get over to respond, they'll be able to just get across the bridge quickly into their vehicles and carry on.
Now, one further question. You say that putting in a temporary bridge is extraordinarily expensive. What do you think it costs the Northwest Territories to ask for jets to take everybody out? That was from the central government. The 31st Engineering Corps would love to put up a bridge for nothing as an exercise.
The cost.
To show you, and that you do not pay the cost.
Sorry, I don't think we can answer that, but I do have a couple more questions lined up. I see in the red shirt, sorry, over there, and then here next.
Hi. I think part of your problem is you could have given this community the heads up many months in advance. Because you obviously knew this was going to be happening in the spring. And I'm sad that you didn't have that community dialogue with this community then, so that people at work could make adjustments to their schedules, okay? The other thing is why could you not put it off till spring to break up and do it then?
Yeah, good
Because
question.
that would give the
So-
loggers and everybody
Yeah.
a chance, okay? Because this community has to get back to work. You know the hell they've been through. And they need to get money back into their bank accounts. And then suddenly this is sprung on them out of left field. And I don't think that's fair or respectful to this community to do that to them. So why can't you do it during breakup of 2024?
So two pieces. So the first one is around communication. And honestly, we had a lot of uncertainty whether there was any possibility of trying to fit this in. at all, given what was happening out here. So I would have loved to, have more communication, but I don't think anybody was caring at that time about, hey, we might be doing a bridge in the future. Like, there was a lot of other things going on, but I recognize that, hey, if we were way ahead of it and we're talking about it, hey, months down the line, that would have been perfect. So opportunity for us in the future to try to communicate further ahead for those types of projects. But certainly during all summer, it was just, not the right time. We didn't even know if we could go forward with it, and then we're setting a lot of expectations, and then if the bridge doesn't get done, there's potentially disappointment around that too. The second piece is around timing. It could be possible to do it next spring or any time of the year that works best for everybody. The risk with it is we already had it booked in because it was needing to be done and urgent work, and we would love to say that we are doing things 10 years before they need to be done, but that's not realistic with the budgets that we have. Like it is work that is critical for the maintenance of that bridge and keeping it going. So the other piece is, of course, as all the rebuilding work happens, there's more uncertainty for us because it's not normal behavior for what this bridge deals with. And when these heavier loads and everything are coming across it, the last thing we want to do is miss this potential window to do it and then find out that now it's going to take twice as long, have daytime closures that are inconveniencing everybody, and the other things that go along with that. And it will take longer because we'll have to then scramble to line up contractors and everybody else that, like we mentioned before, are currently ready to go now. So I do understand that there could be a better time of year. It's just we're rolling the dice, and there's just more uncertainty than ever with this rebuilding. There's no good ways of predicting what that'll be. So maybe if we load restricted beforehand, we could have more certainty around that. But then that could have as greater impacts to everybody and their ability to get loads in and out, and what they want to do. And there's no perfect silver bullet here. I wish I had a great option in that regards. And even if it was, hey, here's $20 million, just put in a brand new bridge right now, it takes years to get to that point. And this work needs to happen before we could replace the bridge, because this very likely will not last years and still be workable. So I had that other question ready to go lined up there. So.
Yeah, I'm getting this sense. Is this you said that you were open to our feedback. I'm curious, each one of you, how open are you to allowing our feedback to influence your plan?
So far we've heard the concerns around security is something that we can definitely be looking at. A place to park your cars is also another suggestion from the group on what we can look at. The option of looking at the timing of the closures and narrowing those windows up is definitely a big concern on.
And that was a big part of why we wanted to do this too, to get feedback from the community. Right?
What times are we looking at? What should we be aiming for? 9, 11, 4, 5. So those are the great feedbacks that we're getting so far that we can work with so far. So
and the total consensus is just to be clear, like if what we're hearing in our talks with the elected officials and the community are that it's a no-go, then so be it. Like we wanted to get here with this potential opportunity, and we think there's a lot of reasons to do it, even though we understand there's a lot of cons that we hope the pros are outweighing when we're trying to help to lay everything out. But if at the end result is that this doesn't happen, then we do go into risk management mode with it, and it just we hope that nothing happens, and we plan for a new window of time. But that's not ideal for anybody. So if there is a way to make this work by getting this feedback and accommodating those needs, that would be ideal for us, and we hope for you as the community.
Yeah, I don't think she was done. Sorry.
Okay,
sorry.
I wasn't. So what I'm hearing, so I just need to be really clear, because I'm hearing a lot of reasons why we need to go ahead. I'm not hearing, I don't feel heard. And I concur with many things that are said here, and I understand that you're doing your best, and I'm hearing that you've worked hard at this and you've planned it, and that it would cost a lot of money to postpone it, and that there would be materials wasted. I hear that. What I don't know is how open and willing you are to adjust your plans. That's what I need to know. Because I hear that you're listening, maybe, like that you're here and you're taking our questions. I don't know how willing you are to change your plans based on what we're telling you. That is what I'm here for. That's what I need to know, or I need to leave and go on with my life.
Okay, well, I assume you mean by adjusting your plan, you don't mean like adjusting the timing windows for the work
I
that we have
mean,
planned to
make it
do.
workable, work with us. You work for us. Take our feedback and make a plan based on it. I think once we come with a plan, we have a good part of that, and it affects every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, and I think the approach we were taking is we were coming kind of with the worst case scenario and also with options. And we want to take that feedback and adjust it into the plan, but we're not going to be able to outline every detail of what that will be until we're a few days in, because we need that experience with everything to really be able to fine tailor that plan to what you're looking at. And if you mean by adjusting the plan as in like, don't do it this fall, do it next spring, I think I spoke to that like as an option that could certainly be considered as well. We know that it's tough to be out here and to talk about this right now, but if we don't, we're limiting your options of what we're hearing from you as, do you want to go forward with this, knowing what, we might be able to accommodate and try to make happen for this fall? Or is the reality it's impossible and we just risk something happening between now and a later date to try to make it work? So that flexibility does exist, and I want to be clear, it's not ideal, but we're not saying that this has to be done, because we wouldn't be out here getting your feedback if we were just forcing something on you without listening. So
And there was a big discussion on doing it in breakup. Like I was, that was the first thing I said, and they'd already discussed it. And the concern is, with the larger loads that will be coming out here, we will damage the bridge, and they'll load restrict it, and then even empty logging truck may not be able to go across the bridge.
That's what we're trying to avoid, right? That is the main concern, is they don't. I was in the room with these guys, we had a big discussion, and a lot of the questions you're asking, they've already asked. There isn't a great answer for all of them. It was, what do we do? I would hate to do that this time of the year. After everything that just happened, I was like, I don't want nothing to do with it. But then they were right. Like, what do you do if we do hurt the bridge, and now you've got loads of timbers and roofs coming across there, and cement and all that, and we've got to now go, sorry, the bridge is hurt, we can't go across it. We're gonna have to load restrict it. So those are the options, right? Like, if your decision is, if they're willing to do that, and the decision is, don't do it, that is a risk that may happen, that's all.
I got a couple questions lined up, so I want to make sure I get to them. So there and then there next.
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted to put out is I understand that you guys won't know what you're getting into your own work as an aircraft mechanic, and sometimes you get into something, you think you can get it done in an hour, and it takes a little longer. The biggest thing that I think a lot of the community is a little bit sensitive to, at least me in particular, was over the fire, communication with the CSRD and BC Wild Service was very stilted and not very open. And if we could if you guys, one of the things you could do is definitely give us regular feedback, regular posts on the condition, what it's going to be doing, like daily, so that we know what to expect each day as it goes. That would be awesome.
We can communicate.
What is the best way for the most number of people in the fastest fashion? Is it the Facebook?
I'm pretty sure that probably all of us could agree that the most consistent resource for information during the fires, where we are not all getting it from Jay's info webpage or Facebook webpage, right?
Yeah.
So I think that whether, he needs somebody to help him with that or something, but to directly communicate with these guys or allow you guys to be able to post on that page with daily updates and
Yeah, so like Jessica from our communication center can definitely provide daily updates.
We do have our Kicker Facebook page back up again. So we lost it during the fires. We got shut down, but I opened up a new page, so I'll post whenever I can on there too. So.
Jay's Facebook, Kicker.
Yeah.
And also, if There was the preference
On
of not
North
working
Shuswap
7
events.
days a week too, we can entertain that. I was just planning for 7 days a week to try and get it done as fast as possible, so as little inconvenience, but I know I'm open to suggestions.
Sometimes by working on the weekends, we inconvenience people who work on weekends. Daytime, we get the whole thing done faster. Yeah, inconveniences for a shorter time to.
Okay, that one, then, this one.
So you mentioned having parking, so having a plan for parking, which is awesome. What about if you had also some type of shuttle? Like someone can shuttle people from the parking lot to the bridge, and then on the other side of the bridge, there's some sort of shuttle to take them to their home location. And that could really solve a lot of problems. And I don't know if it would be legally possible, but you could maybe employ locals to be on the other side, to be the shuttle for the other people, so that got paid to do that or something. So that would eliminate a lot of problems, in my opinion.
Is there any type of a community shuttle right now? Is there anything? Is there a bus?
I'm surprised you're asking.
Like a
There's
BCO bus?
the-
Sorry, I'm from here.
The hub has shuttles in it, and volunteers. Brian Knipstrom has often been a shuttle volunteer for the Beach East.
We'll
Is
get
there-
some contact information from you, because we do want to explore that, and then we'll.
Is there a large number of people that go at the same time to the same place? Okay, I thought maybe the mill might influence that one,
Yeah,
but.
maybe the mill.
Or loggers.
I know you've been waiting, so I know there's lots of people.
Just wondering, is there gonna be traffic control there during the day too? Like, is it gonna be down to one lane from like the 670 down? Like, is there gonna be delays during the day?
There won't be any delays during the day. Everything's gonna be at nighttime, all nighttime work.
And you're gonna be able to get everything off the road there?
Yeah.
Everything, cause like,
Yeah.
you got people parking.
Yeah.
Well,
There'll be a small staging area at the bridge that will be obviously taken for the bit of equipment that'll be left on site, but the bridge itself will be wide open during the daytime.
Okay.
The pullout right at the bridge, we need for the
Staging.
staging of the materials and the equipment.
Yeah.
Probably terrible.
I
Okay,
just want to
go ahead.
quickly finish my thought there. So something to consider is if people have to walk any sort of distance from vehicle, wherever, there's security for those people should be considered.
Yeah, security or the shuttle idea. We'll explore that further. I'll go here.
I just would like some clarification on emergency vehicles. When I first read the post, I thought it said that emergency vehicles would be allowed to cross. Maybe I misread, it's a long time ago. But you also mentioned that you won't be able to let emergency vehicles across, but you have a plan.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah,
on what
so
that
there are
plan
some
is?
specifics. So we can't have any like live loads while the jacking strut is in place, because then we run the risk of like compromising the jacking strut. So we have an ETV and a level 3 first aid person that will be posted on this side of the bridge. So if there is an emergency, like a 911, somebody needs an ambulance, the ambulance is responding, they'll be in contact with our fire department, which would in turn be in contact with our ETV, and us will have a contact list and a procedure for that. And then our ETV and the fire department can respond. And then pick up whoever's having problems and then take them back to the bridge and transport them onto the ambulance.
So would that be an advanced life support person if someone's in cardiac arrest on this side of the bridge?
Yeah, like so the level 3 first aid and ETV, that's like the same basic qualifications as like ambulance transportation.
Because that's a huge concern.
For
We have
sure.
an elderly
Yeah.
population, we have people who.
100%.
There's accidents,
Yeah.
there's.
Yeah.
And I see ambulances up and down on Squad up and down.
Yeah.
And there's a constant stream of ambulances.
Of course.
So I'm not usually watching at night, I'm not sure there'd be as many in the evenings, but that's a big concern.
Yeah, thanks for asking for that clarity.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Okay, and along the same lines, I'm with North Shuswap First Responders. We're not with the fire department, we're first responders, we're on the scene before the ambulance gets there.
Yeah.
So has anybody been in touch with our chief?
Yeah, so is it Lee or what's his name? Sorry.
Not fire department,
Oh,
North
sorry.
Shuswap First Responders.
Yeah, so he was mentioning that there was a first responders.
Yeah.
Tom
Hansen.
Tom Hansen.
Yes. Yeah.
Who's
So there.
Hanson? Who's that?
He's with regional district. Yeah.
He was with emergency response.
So who should I contact about this? Because I'm unclear. It's not unusual to get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning and it was in, up to Lee Creek. So
Okay, so
how are we gonna do that?
My understanding was Tom is the head of the emergency response for the CSRDs. And this is not the same.
We're a volunteer organization out here in the North Shuswap.
I think it's the one that Brent had heard about through the.
It is,
local
it
fire
is.
department
And I'm
here.
sorry, I'm just drawing a blank on his name,
They're
but
first responders too.
I have started the conversation with him, and he said he was gonna be here tonight.
But that's a different organization.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
not the fire department.
Right.
We're
Let's
first
get
responders.
you-
First
in touch with
responders,
Brent?
and he was
Yeah.
telling me about that, and he said he was gonna be in communication
Oh,
with the
okay.
first responders, so.
And this is Tom somebody?
He's
No,
the fire
this
chief.
is different.
Ben Pell.
Ben Pellet, yes, thank you, thank you. It's Ben Pellet, yeah.
And Ben is with CSRD.
He is the
Or-
fire chief
Scotch Creek.
for Scotch Creek.
But at the end of the day, so if you're an organization that's separate from that, let's get you in contact with Brent.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that link was created.
And you should be on our stakeholders list too. Yeah. So we'll get
So there's
that.
no arrangement with BC Ambulance
So,
to have an ambulance
can I
on
get
this side of the bridge
your
and
name?
on the other side of the bridge?
So I've been trying to get in contact with BC Ambulance for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
With
They won't even come to an audit zone.
like it's so hard to get in touch with those people. I've left
So,
multiple
yeah,
messages.
we should connect. I know who has the connection to BC Ambulance.
Perfect. Yes.
Can I just
Tough
get,
tactic.
Yes.
can I just get your name, just in case something happens, we miss contacting with you?
Yeah, Jackie.
Jackie?
My last name is Conroy, Conroy.
Conroy.
Yes, and I'm not a chief or anything like that. I'm just a cog in the wheel. But
And the group's official name is?
North Shuswap First Responders.
First responders, okay.
So we'll have to cross that bridge.
I have two here, yeah.
I was just wondering, I don't know if this is helpful or not, but if the first few days, it sounds like it's gonna be your longest days.
Yeah.
Because you're not uncertain, if you're uncertain, would that be better to start maybe on Friday night, so it's not affecting week during the week?
That is a great idea.
Like, it sucks, I know, for weekend, I know some people work on weekends, so I know it's not gonna work for everybody, but a lot of people work Monday to Friday. A lot of the guys that work in the bush, or guys that, or whoever that works away in Kamloops or Salmon Arm, I mean, if you start on a Friday night, and then your longer nights are over the weekend, which is more people's flexible plans.
Yeah.
And by Monday.
As opposed to a work day.
And then Monday,
Then you have to
yeah.
miss out on a day's work.
Yeah, we can try and adjust to that.
Maybe something.
I actually think that's a great idea, because
Yeah.
if you're stuck on the other side or something, you're like, oh, you know what, maybe tonight's the night to have a party.
Yeah.
Go out of town then.
And the kids are in school, the kids are doing their sport.
Yeah.
It's not heavy after school activities, killing it. Yeah.
No, that's
That's a great idea, yeah. Yeah, then we can potentially, if everything goes good,
Maybe
Friday,
we'll start
Saturday, and
on
then have an opening for the Monday, and then at the 1 in the
And
morning.
I would start, if your first few days are the longest ones, it's gonna be
Yeah.
started on Friday,
Okay.
get through that hump.
So we start before.
Sorry? So just looking at those dates, just trying to
I
figure
don't know
out.
what day.
Yeah, we'll do that after. That's okay. Answer, please.
I don't know that country like my husband does, but my husband, especially during the fires, and he's a logger, it wasn't a narrative, he talked about a road going through Leamington Pass. He said there is another way into the Shuswap, and it's through Leamington Pass. And I just wondered if maybe you could put that on your books. I think it's
So you're-
de-gazetted now.
You're talking about the road out through the Seymour Arm?
No. This
No.
is, help me, I think it's somewhere along this.
It comes down to 670.
No, it's very much, it's been de-gazetted, but after the fire taught us so much, we know that the one road out that way and the one road out that way doesn't work, because, you come to this community and we look like we're a small community. We're not. We're a huge river development along our tax base is almost as large as the city of Salmon Arm. Our school has produced more valedictorians in Salmon Arm high school, and we're only 11% of the Salmon Arm high school graduating class. We raised 90% of the money the year my daughter graduated for the
dry bread, it all came from this community. 90% of the graduating money. This community has a lot of strength. If we could get another road out, I'm sure it would make the problem that you guys have now. I mean, the bridge is going to have to be replaced one day. So looking into the future, and I'm talking out of turn, really, because I don't know. But Ian, my husband, and I have a lot of respect for him, and he said that there is another way out, and it's through Lamberton. So I would like to put that. Are you saying Lamberton?
Lamberton.
You got it out. Thanks for
So it's something that perhaps could be looked at.
I think maybe what I'll do is, it's probably nothing that would help us for this, like, immediate short term, but
No.
the idea,
Yeah.
maybe when we look at those options for the bridge options in that study, for next year, maybe I'll see if they can also tack on, alternate route options, just to understand what those are, and see, maybe the investment in an alternate route is a better, way to go. I don't know without having a lot more information, but, I think that's a good opportunity to at least try to put that in.
To go out through single round is dangerous, and it's also a long way.
So I'm assuming Lamberton has to cross the creek
Yes.
elsewhere
Yeah.
as well. So,
Yes, it does.
and it's got a functional Forest Service Road bridge is what crosses.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it's real great.
It's not functional.
She's just saying in the future, look at it, that's all she's saying, it's nothing for right now, it will never be done.
Might need another bridge. Might need another bridge.
That's why you sit next to each other.
Just a suggestion for the future.
Yeah, on the topic of alternate routes, I mean, during the fires and stuff, we had a barge going across. Is that not an option to be able, we got high school kids in Salmon Arm to be able to get to their home in Solista, to have that barge go, at night? For a couple of, well, I mean, you can't do it in the middle of the night, I get that, but at dusk or something, like it's gonna be closed at 7.
I think there's more feasibility in us getting those kind of openings and things going at that bridge than a barge, just because it's not our wheelhouse very much, so, I get the idea though. So I had a question here and then one there next, and then at the back. Okay, sorry, I'm terrible at the order of people.
I was trying to say, like, can we implement a barge also, but the other part of my question was, if you're gonna be proactive, are you implementing, setting aside funding to eventually replace the bridge with a cement or steel material? Even if it takes, 10 years from now, like if you're already starting that process of just seeing what is available, why not put those funds aside and, maybe some of the funding that you're using to maintain this wooden bridge could potentially go towards that, right? Like I understand, like there's crucial stuff to be done and it has to be replaced now, like that's fine, but I'm just curious, is there a plan in place for that?
There's definitely the planning around it, but not like the saving up for what we do is we just kind of prioritize the structures that we need to finish out in that fiscal year and get done. And then the next year we have in the plan for what's getting finished that year. It is along the same lines, like I know what you're saying though. But the other piece is that option study that we're looking at, like that's a big part of understanding, well, how much is this going to cost? And what is it going to look like? What's going to be made of? How many lanes are going to be on it? What's the orientation of the bridge? Is it going to be something that we can put in beside the other one to keep that one open? So those are the questions that we want answered, and I'm sure the community is going to want answered before that replacement happens. So having that information will certainly help when that replacement goes to understand what those risks are, reduce those like variables and unknowns so that we can have some more certainty around getting that done.
When is
And
that
the maintenance the maintenance budget and the bridge rebuilding budget don't affect each other. They're not. They're two separate, totally separate entities. So taking one away from the other doesn't affect it.
And this isn't maintenance. This is rehab. What we're doing.
Okay.
Check full block rehab.
You mentioned the options study a lot. When is the options study coming?
So I've got money secured for our next fiscal, which starts April 1st. That doesn't mean there's going to be the team like rah immediately on April 1st, but from that window of time until the next April 1st is the fiscal window that we have for that option study. If we find that there's more information needed, then I will keep banging on the door to ask for more money. If it needs to go into a future year for more, information and more detail in the option study, but right now I'm hoping we'll be able to complete it within that next fiscal year. Yeah.
Thank you kindly. I have a question, and maybe I've misread it or whatever, but I get the feeling, is there something ominous about the condition of that bridge right now that you have to be doing this in October, November, that you cannot put it off until breakup? Is there something this community needs to know about the condition of that bridge?
I don't think there's anything right this moment like that you should be worried about driving over it, but these technical experts would have more information about kind of that risk. It's more like, especially with some unknown loads and weights that might go over it, there's just a greater risk that it will immediately, instantly fail because we're seeing degradation and there's signs of it and we know that it's in need of replacement.
What do you mean by instantly fail?
Actually, instantly fail. What would happen is we would have structural members, individual members in the bridge that would fail. At that moment, the engineers would look at it. They would go, this bridge is good for only 20,000 kilograms, or this bridge is good for 14,000 kilograms. 14,000 kilograms, there goes a school bus. So, or they might say it's pedestrian use only, depending on what the issue is. So with the uncertainty of what's going to happen with the rebuilding, how quickly that's going to get going, the cleanup, the rebuilding, the everything, right now there's not a huge amount of that going on compared to what could go on come the spring. Come spring, people are going to have, some people will have their insurance stuff figured out, or people will have their own plans figured out, and they're going to start going. And the logging, the cleanup of the forests, those loads, the cleanup of the buildings and the stuff, that's going to get going even more in the spring. So, like Eric said, it's on the table. Like, if that's where the community really wants to go with it, we just want you to know what those risks are, and we're trying to mitigate that as best we can.
That's what I'm asking, is this community has shown, especially recently, they can handle anything if you just tell them what the hell's going on. Okay? Now, bottom line is, all right, this community knows what the risk is. It can happen. One way to get a bridge, guys, a new bridge rebellion. But why still back to breakup of 2024? Why can't it be done then? Because it means the big loads won't be able to come in. You guys can bring your big heavy stuff in earlier, before breakup, and drop it off in press time to do it.
So we're not the problem. It's not our stuff that we're worried about bringing across the bridge. We're concerned about the loggers, all of the resources that you guys need to bring into your community to rebuild your community. That was the discussion that we were having. We don't want the bridge to end up in a situation where it has to be load restricted and then your community not to be able to get the resources that you need. That was the conversation that we had.
I don't know, you gotta walk this right here. You're a trucker, you're worth, what, $250,000 with a rig plus $1,200 with the fuel on board. Are you trusting their security with your rig and God only knows how many others sitting over there?
Well, that definitely is a concern, like I said, having it sitting there, but you've got, Adams Mill works, shift work. I want to say their last shift leaves at 1 morning. If you guys are slating a 12-hour window, in that 12-hour window, obviously you guys are going to have coffee runs, depending on where you're at with your replacement of whatever part of the structure at that time.
Yeah.
Nobody's doubting the fact that it needs to be upgraded.
Yeah.
But it's the openings for the people taking their families, appointments, coming back from the mill. Like, you could have 30 cars sitting there just from the mill alone, let alone, any of Maddie's crew that's working up in Seymour Arm or anything like that. Like, you could end up with a whack of vehicles.
Yeah, we'll reach out to the mill to find out like a better understanding of their shift and how many employees that are on there. Like, ideally, we want, after those few days of uncertainty where we figure it out, ideally we want to try to time so we kind of know all those different people that are at play here, the mill workers and everybody else. Like, what's our best window for that mid?
So your Friday and Sunday shift, your first 3 days is essentially probably your best option for the fees.
That makes sense.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea, and we'll do that. And I think, like, I looked at the calendar quickly. I think if it doesn't if we just posted to start on the 14th on the Friday before instead of on the 16th, and then yeah, I mean hopefully the guys just nail it and we can just close that window down and come up with a time to open it. Maybe if everybody can agree, like a 1 in the morning type of deal would probably work if we started at 9. But we'll see. Like after the first couple of days, the guys will have a good understanding of how long the process is going to take and each part of it, right? So we'll get that figured out really fast, though.
Where would that be posted?
We'll post it all over the place. We'll
put it
post it
everywhere.
at the site. We'll post it on social media. We'll send out emails to the stakeholders. If you guys have suggestions for where else we can post it, we'll post it. And
We
do
heard the kicker, we heard
notifications
Jay's,
constantly.
so, yeah. I wanna get the gentleman in the back there.
Start the meeting here. What was the budget for this rebuild?
Can't remember.
Budget's $830,000.
Well, I did a survey of the Adams River Bridge that was completed in 2010, and it came in at 10 million. And they had dictated that you had to maintain the 8 clicking hour zone around the bridge. That's why it's a long curve. I compared them to putting a new bridge in Scotch Creek, and it was going to be this is 2020, and it was going to be the same price, $10 million bucks, put a new bridge in Scotch Creek. And I have emails saying from the Ministry of Transport in Kamloops, this is before they replaced the Adams River Bridge, that the Scotch Creek Bridge was more rocky than the Adams River Bridge. But they replaced that one for the tourists in the 2010 salmon run. Now,
Sir, sorry, what's your question? You missed the beginning. We're playing Jeopardy. What's your question?
my question is, why don't you look at C-SPAN that has contracted all these bridges for the pipeline? They're ready to go, 2 lanes, concrete bridges, 100-ton concrete bridges that you could put across Scotch Creek in 1 week if all the bureaucracy wasn't there. And why spend more money on this 2-lane bridge that the Department of Highways designated a 1-lane bridge? It was a 2-lane before. And now they narrowed it down to a 1-lane and put a bottleneck in there and put the yield signs at the wrong end of the bridge. So my question is, why don't we just look at other options about all the bridges that are available now that used to be on the pipeline? 100-ton, 2-lane concrete bridges, ready for
Great.
it.
I'm gonna interrupt just for the sake of time and whatnot. You did miss a lot at the beginning, but if you wanted to catch up, I can come meet up with you afterwards or something. But they already addressed the survey and stuff that they're going to be doing for the bridge. And these repair costs don't affect a replacement cost. They're not transferable.
That's right, that's what they said, they weren't related, but it's still our tax money going. They are related in our taxes.
Sorry, there and then there.
Just wondering what the contingency plan is if your new jacking system doesn't quite work as designed.
We'll fall back to the old jacking system.
So you do have a backup.
There's an old one that's been used at other bridges before, but this new one should be, it's been engineered, it's been over-engineered, and the ministry spent a bunch of money to have it manufactured, so it should be good to go. And the contractor that's coming out, Cutting Edge Consulting, came out and did some like drive mock-ups with a bunch of the components. So hopefully a lot of like the issues that could have been coming down the pipe have already been addressed.
Yeah, I just think everybody here wants a backup plan on a backup plan because.
Yeah.
Don't blame me.
Brute force and ignorance, man. We'll get it fixed.
Here and then.
It sounds like everybody understands the bridge needs to be done, and I don't think there's never gonna be a perfect time. But I just sort of wondering around, you know, with the fire, now, are we at a higher risk in the spring for mudslides and flooding and that kind of stuff, like so often happens, right? So that could be another potentially delay that could happen in the spring.
Another great reason why doing the construction work in the spring isn't ideal too, because we're spinning around trying to respond to emergencies with fresh head constantly. It's a huge problem.
And we're hoping there's not a whole bunch of rain at the same time, so we don't have that, but yeah, you're right.
Could I please elaborate on that, because I've been wanting to ask a question? I'm sorry, it'll be really, really quick. Yeah, I know my hand's way down here and I'm really short, but what she just mentioned about, spring runoff and all that, has anybody looked at, I don't know if this affects the bridge or not, or maybe it possibly could in the future, but with the way the fire came down through the Scotch Creek watershed, is there a possibility that, hundreds of trees and tons of silt and stuff could come into Scotch Creek and start coming down towards that bridge and knock out all the work that you guys did? Like, should we be concerned about potential log jam or something just damaging the bridge from, who knows what could happen? All those trees are burnt through there.
We are concerned, like, not just here we had a number, like I mentioned the scope of the district going all the way down to the US border. Like, we had a number of significant fires that affected watersheds in areas that are going to cause those sorts of problems. We had White Rock Lake Fire in 2021 with the creek out there, Whiteman's Creek Bridge off West Side Road. That was a significant one that saw a large increase in the volume of water that went through there that we had to respond to with that and all of our other infrastructure. So I can't promise everything's gonna there's not going to be any issues with that, because we're certainly concerned about the impacts of the wildfires and what that means during the freshet and the increased water, debris, everything that comes down those channels. So what I can say is that we do receive reports from Ministry of Forests on those watersheds to get a better understanding of what the fire impacted, because we certainly can't see from the road all of those impacts. We need that information from those professionals to give us the advice. And just an example, when I mentioned that West Side Road creek there, we were able to take the advice from that report to have excavators stationed at that bridge ready to go during the freshet window. So it was there saving the structure, keeping the water running underneath, so we didn't have to scramble something in response. They identified it, flagged it, we followed those recommendations.
We might need that. I mean, we just might need that.
So I would like to say to your Scotch Creek Bridge is sort of fires change things, but it's kind of ideal in that you're quite a ways away from the mountain, still, like the steep part of the terrain where that stuff would come out, and it would start to fall out as it hits the plain. So hopefully, if there was something like that, it would fall out before the Scotch Creek Bridge.
Didn't we lose Ross Creek Bridge once or twice? Ross Creek,
yeah.
And it's pretty flat through there.
It
came and wiped out that bridge.
Yep.
So this could easily happen here, especially after the fire wave.
That's what I said. It's not possible, but you do have that at least going for it.
So is it you guys that looks out for that next spring?
We do, yeah.
So we're trusting that you guys will be looking out for us next spring.
I was the guy under the bridge on Holdings when I got pictures from a fireman that the bridge had burned, and I got in here while it was still closed. Fire poles were burning down, falling across the road. I went out there and checked the bridge because I had heard that it was in bad shape. And I got in here while everything was still on fire, and
we pulled our crane and our pile driving crew off of Baxter and moved them over here.
We were lucky we had the bridge site with the crew and equipment and the materials, which is almost unheard of.
Yeah.
We stole from one bridge to fix another bridge.
Yeah, that was extremely fast. Questions? There's a whole bunch.
Sorry, I think you were next, and then right over here. Yeah.
Regarding medical evacuation, in case of an emergency, a critical care emergency, there is the emergency helicopter system that's headquarters in Kamloops. It services the interior. And it would be advisable perhaps to work with them to say, look, we're going to have this situation for this period of time. Can you be forewarned about this in the event that we have a problem getting across the bridge? Because it's once they're notified, it's a 15-minute takeoff, and it's 15 minutes here. And they can land on that side if
get back to camera.
Preparations are made for location ahead of time.
Yeah,
that's good advice.
We're going to continue trying to get in touch with the BC Ambulance Service. I honestly don't know why they haven't responded yet.
Yeah,
they kind of make that call. The ambulance gets called. They know that the bridge is out. They make the call on what to send out.
Yeah,
maybe we'll see if we can get the elected officials.
For sure. Yeah, we're trying. We've already been trying. Yeah, I've left multiple messages with.
But we got, like I say, we got new connections.
We'll keep reaching out to more connections to make that, because that's an important link. So right behind you. Yeah.
I'm a little late
the get together. First off, I just want to say thank you for even letting us have this discussion. I know it's not something that you have to do. But there were some people in the back that had to leave, and they wanted me to ask about what are the possibilities of doing a tent bridge on Max beside it, especially now that I know it is indigenous land and it's going to be clear cut because of the fires. So
Temporary.
is that a possibility?
A temporary bridge on what? Pardon?
On Max, I don't know what that means.
Oh.
Ask me.
Like bridges.
Just a temporary bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beside the existing one.
Yeah.
On either side, because it's already been cleared by the trees.
Yeah, we did talk earlier, like, even to do that, because we're outside of our emergency window, it wouldn't happen, it wouldn't be possible at all this year. And even next year, just the amount of permitting and consultation, even if it's on top of that, if that's feasible, it wouldn't meet the window of time that we're worried the components of this bridge will need to be
If
replaced.
it failed, when you're rebuilding, I bet there would be a temporary bridge in there within 24 hours with the military, because they wouldn't dare leave us hanging like that. So,
I'm gonna say that I understand that we all have maybe some trust issues maybe right now, right?
But you know what? I build bridges, and this is the peanut for me.
I get that, but I also understand that we also went through a lot of the past couple weeks, and these gentlemen that are here to discuss this with us are taking their time out of their schedules to have these events.
Let's not allow our abandonment issues and trust issues that we have going on our trauma. Let's not have that affect what these guys are trying to do here for us today. Thanks.
And I just want to recognize that we knew that this is a difficult time, and we still wanted to have that conversation because we thought that this project was worth having that conversation.
If that's okay, I think that's I just want to end by thanking you so much for coming here and having this discussion with us, because our goal is, if we do want to go forward with the work, but our goal is to go forward in a way that's better based on the feedback and the information that we've been able to get from you, and we know it's a time crunch. We would love to have months and months to do this, and we know we put out really scary information, and part of that is to get you in here and make sure that we find out, okay, how can we tailor this to what you need? So that's what we're hoping to come back to you with, more information about that, and just thank you all so much for coming out here. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.